Hello and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me is the super mega lucky one herself,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility on Super Mega Lucky Box. Sarah, tell us a little bit about this game.
All right, Super Mega Lucky Box is a flip and write card game with bingo-like mechanisms.
So, as far as two-player changes to the rules, there is one in particular. There is a resource that is moons in the game, and in the end-game scoring in a two-player game, the person who has the most scores points, but the other person does not lose points.
Right.
Because otherwise, in a bigger player count, you actually do lose points if you have the least number of moons.
Right, and those who are familiar with Sushi Go, this is the same thing with the pudding there. You count it up at the end of the game. Most gets +6 and the least gets -6. And in here for a two-player game, thankfully, just like in Sushi Go, you don't lose points for not having the most.
Now, with that said, do we see any issues in a two-player game?
That is where there's an issue, is the moons. As soon as someone gets a marginal lead, and I mean, like, it could be 2, it could even be 1 sometimes, but if that person just gets lucky enough to get moons and gets ahead, the other person, even if they try to catch up, well, then the person who's already ahead can keep getting ahead. So that is unfortunate, especially since 6 points is actually a lot in this game for points, and so that is a bit of an imbalance.
Yeah, and considering the fact that moons during the course of the game do
they don't do anything for you.
A player who has fallen behind in a two-player game is very unincentivized to even try to catch up, and they would just rather, well, let's play with the other parts of the game that are fun and give me more interaction. So there is a bit of an imbalance in there. Beyond that, any other two-player issues?
Yes, so I keep comparing this to Sushi Go, but it's because it's by the same designer, Phil Walker Harding. Just like Sushi Go, this game is not very interactive at 2 players. It loses that kind of chaos that more players bring to the table, and it could just be chatter and fun and engagement, and some of that has absolutely nothing to do with the game, but what this game, can do for a group of people who want to socialize and play a game at the same time. In a 2-player environment, it's just not quite the same.
Yeah, so that dynamic excitement that you'd find in more players involved is just not there.
Now, it is generally another one of those multiplayer solitaire games, except for the moons. So there's a lot less interaction than, say, Sushi Go, which has, as people call it, hate drafting.
Yeah.
So that has a bit more player interaction.
All right. Well, let's move on to accessibility. So the parts in this are super nice. You got shaped lightning bolts. You got shaped moons. Those are fun. Yeah. Most of the card numbers in the game, they're super easy to see.
There's really good contrast on almost everything except, and you'll see at the bottom of this one, there's a blue moon on a blue background and a pink star on a pink background. And lastly, the lightning bolts are green on green as well. And then when you have green and blue next to each other, I mean, a lot of people will be able to see the difference, but there's still very poor contrast for those who will have colorblind issues or other vision disabilities. And which is odd because even the big oversized cards that have the large numbers, they're also really good for contrast. It's just for whatever, when it came to these, little pieces, also little pieces are great. But on the cards themselves, it's just, you can barely see them.
Yeah. But fortunately, a good news is all the information in front of you is open.
Yes, this is a completely open information game. So someone who has more severe vision issues and may not be able to mark their board or see those particular icons, someone can help them very easily, because you flip up a card and you're going to have several of these cards in front of you. You're going to choose a number, cross it off. So it's like, it's all open information, so it's really easy to deal with.
So would you recommend this as a two-player game?
As a two-player game, Probably not. I think there are instances where two people can have fun, but overall, especially if you're a hardcore gamer, definitely don't buy this for the two-player experience. Now, maybe we had talked a bit, maybe if you're teaching someone who's new to the hobby or younger, that could be good.
Yeah, I would see this as a good two-player experience if you're in that teaching element of, okay, this happens. Let's walk through the steps, because the steps aren't very complicated. Like you said, flip up a card, look at the number. You may change it with some pieces or not, but it's ultimately mark down a thing on one of your cards. And then see if anything chains off of it.
Right.
So very simple, very straightforward, but overall, two-player game, unless you're under very specific conditions that you're looking for, this is probably nothing that we could recommend as a two-player game.
Right.
As far as accessibility.
It is. I would say, for the most part, this is a very accessible game. It's all open information, like we've discussed, and the only issues are going to be the icons on the cards. The numbers are fantastically with the contrast, and the little bits are all shaped. So they're really fun to play with regardless, but for vision disabilities, this is great because they're easy to feel. And there's only two of them, moons and lightning bolts, so that makes it real easy.
Yeah, I have no problems visually because, well, frankly, I didn't even look at the cards. I just asked Sarah, well, what's on my cards? And because the decisions you make are, random for the most part. I mean, they say it right in the name of the game, super mega lucky. That's what it is. So accessibility, that's perfectly fine. So do we have anything else?
I think that covers everything.
All right. So if you want to get a hold of us in any way, shape, or form, you can do that on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and of course on YouTube. Please like and subscribe.
And again, I've been Will.
And I've been Sarah.
And why would you ever roll with just one when you can be rolling with two?